Hi everyone, welcome. I'm Izzy at Minerva. We're going to be looking at how to hack our very own Minerva Exclusive sewing pattern, and the one that we're going to be looking at today is the Iris Cardigan. So what we're going to be doing to this is we're going to start off with the basic pattern like you can see here next to me, and then we're going to alter it. We are going to make it sleeveless, we're going to make it 3/4 length, and then we're going to add a really lovely elegant little rolled collar onto it as well. Each of these steps are really straightforward, and I'm going to be talking you through how to make the changes to the pattern step by step. So you can follow along in the video today and then make your own version at home. You can obviously pick and choose which alterations you want to do at home. You don't have to do the whole thing. You could just lengthen it or you could just make it sleeveless. I'm really excited about this one, so let's get straight on into it. If you're following along at home, do check that you've got all the supplies that you need, including our Iris Cardigan pattern, which is available to purchase on our website. If you're not sure about what type of fabric to choose, or if you want further support in terms of some of the sewing steps for the basic instructions, or you want some extra support with fit, we have 3 videos on our playlist on our Minerva YouTube channel where you can refer to those 3 different topics and check those out in more detail if you need further support. Okay, so to start off with, I'm just going to lengthen my pattern piece. I've got the back and the front here, and I've cut them out to the size I want to make the sample in, which is a G. So if you guys can get to that same point, that's fabulous. Okay, so now we need to decide how long we want the pattern piece to actually be. Take a look at page 7 and you'll see that the hemline reaches about knee length. So that's approximate. So what you want to do is to measure from your knee down your leg to the length that you want it to be. So where you want the hemline of your garment to be. So take that measurement that you've measured from your knee down, which for me is 16 centimeters, and then basically just extend the hemline by 16 centimeters or by whatever distance you would like. Draw a nice straight line for your new hemline, and then just extend your side seams down in a nice straight line. And then cut away your excess paper. Wonderful. So there we go, we've added our extra volume to the garment. So let's move on to make it sleeveless next. Okay, mark a point that is 6 centimeters away from the side of your seam. And then just draw a nice gentle curve from that 6 centimeter mark all the way down to your side seam. And what we're trying to do is just join it up like really nicely with this line here, okay? So just all the way up really beautifully. Because we've taken 6 centimeters off there, we then also want to take 6 centimeters off the front over here. So just repeat that process, mark the 6 centimeter offset, and then find a nice soft curve from the side seam all the way up. Add a notch to the underarm seam, just so you know where to stop sewing when we're sewing up the side seam. Lovely. Okay, that's already looking quite different, isn't it? Which is quite fun. We've made the changes that we need to do to the front and the back pattern pieces, but we now need to make that nice collar for the band, the neckband that goes all the way around. So let's do that next. So here is our neckband pattern piece. The centre back, which is going to go right at the top of our back at the back, the centre down there, that's up here. And then it continues all the way down to the bottom edge down here. Now, because we extended the front of the pattern piece by 16 centimetres, or whatever you decided to do, we need to extend this pattern piece by 16 centimetres first so that we've got the correct length for the neckband. So grab a piece of paper just to extend out your pattern. Extend the pattern piece by 16 centimetres or whatever distance you need. Cut away any excess volume. So now that you've extended it as far as you need to down the bottom down there, we're now going to start to look at the top up here and just start to understand what's happening with these notches. So if I grab my front pattern piece, which is this one, and I line up the notch, the hem, and this notch here, you can start to see what location and what point the fabric, the neckband is tying in with this. So I would say this is our bust line approximately, just as a sort of estimation. So what I want is a collar that kind of rolls out here, turns out this way, and then sort of comes in to then come in to be sort of normal by around here, as in come in to be the standard size that we've designed it for. So I sort of want it to extend up from there. So on this pattern piece, I'm going to mark the break point, as in the point where I want the collar to start rolling in. And basically, I'm going to mark it as like midway between these two notches. Let's just keep it really simple. So 14 centimeters from the top notch there, just going to mark a little point here, which will become the break point. Add a piece of paper along one of the long lengths. When I'm wearing the garment, I want the collar to kind of roll over, probably to around here, and then sort of come in like that in a nice smooth curve. So what I want to do is grab my ruler and just have a little look at what sort of scale do I want my pattern piece to kind of move out onto. So bear in mind you've got a 1.5 centimetre seam allowance here. If I want my collar to sort of move out to around here, I'd say I want to make it about 8 centimetres wide. So up at the top by the centre back, this is where we want it to be 8 centimetres. So I'm aiming to have it sort of come in by around the sort of time it hits around this point down here, aren't they, where that notch is right there. So I'm trying to create a basic curve that sort of comes in and goes like this. So if I sketch this one in like that, and that's a nice little soft starting point, and then try and find a nice curve that will then sort of join in to around this point here, where it's still going to look like just really nice and soft. And basically that's the type of shape that we're looking for, something that extends it out but then just kind of comes in really nicely. So it's going to be like nice and wide here, and then just come in and nip in at that point, at which point it will then sort of flip over, sort of middle way between the waist, around the waist area, and then continue straight on down. So once you're happy with your shape, then just remove that extra volume to create a nice clean pattern piece. Okay, for us, that's all we're going to do to our pattern piece. We do just need to annotate it though, and we need to say that instead of cutting 2, we're actually going to cut 4 pattern pieces. And what this is going to do is it's going to slightly widen our neckband. It's going to double the width of our neckband when it attaches onto the garment, which is going to give it a bit more sort of drama and weight to the collar, which is going to be really fun. But it's also going to mean that this length here is going to attach beautifully and perfectly onto our front and back pattern pieces. So let's go and take a look at what these changes are actually going to mean when we sew them up together. Now, obviously, as we talked about before, with this video, we're not going to demo every single step for how to sew the garment. You can refer back to the sew along for the standard steps. But in any case where we've detoured away from the instructions as a result of our hacks, I will then show you how to sew those bits up together. So let's go and do that now. So the fabric that I've selected to sew our pattern today is our Minerva Exclusive Pop Cheetah Pointy Roma double stretch knit fabric. Now this has got quite a nice weight to it. It's reasonably sturdy in terms of holding its shape, but it's still got a really nice amount of drape. Now today we are basically going to be following the instructions as per the Iris Cardigan instructions, but to start off with, the very first thing it asks us to do is actually to prepare the neckband. So we are going to deviate from this step and we're going to prepare the neckband in the way that I'm about to show you. So we've got 2 sets of neckband. The very first thing we want to do is just to pin the top up here and sew along those short edges. Excellent. Once you've sewn 2 of them together, both sets, just press them open so they're going to sit nice and flat, and then flip it over so that you've got the right side facing up. Next, grab your other pattern piece and put it right sides together, and just make sure that you're lining up the correct side, so like the curvy side with the curvy side, and just lay them completely on top of one another. Okay, what we're going to do now is pin all the way along the outer curve. Once you've pinned all of that curve all the way down, the next thing, the outer side, the next thing we want to do is just to pin the short ends as well. And then what we're going to do is we're actually going to sew all the way along the short ends and all the way up, all the way along that whole pinned area, down to the other side and across this bottom bit, down here as well. So let's go and sew that in place. Excellent. Now, as we've sewn it here, the corners, we're just going to trim off the ends, the corners, and just reduce the seam allowance here by half. Now, if you're using really thick fabric at this point, you may just wish to grade the seam allowance here just to get a softer finish on your garment when you turn it right side out. So if you're grading a seam allowance, you're literally just cutting one seam allowance in half so that when you fold it back on itself, you don't get a really tight ridge like that. Turn the neckband with wrong sides together, right side out, and give it a really good press so you've got a nice, crisp, clean finish on that curved side there. At that point then we're going to leave that and pop it to one side. Okay, so effectively we've done step one now. We're now going to move on to step two and sew our shoulder seams together before we sew up the side seams. I'm going to talk you through this because there's a couple of little changes with the sleeve at this point here. So first of all, let's do step two and sew our shoulders together. Okay, so with right sides together, we've just pinned the shoulders from the front to the back. I'm going to sew those, overlock them or finish them, and then press them towards the back. Next, we are going to sew the side seam from this notch here up to the arm, which on our one, because it's sleeveless, is where this notch is here. So pop a little pin in there so you know that's where you need to stop, and a little pin in here where the notch is down there. And then we are just literally going to sew together between this pin and that pin. And as per the instructions here on step 4, we're just going to sew straight down to that notch. So we're going to sew in a straight line, 1.5 centimeters offset from the raw edge here, all the way down until we hit this point, and then just continue in a straight line until you hit the circle, which was on the original pattern piece. So here's the original pattern piece. And you can see that we've got a little circle there, which is going to match up perfectly. At this location here. So we're going to stop sewing right there. Perfect. So let's sew that together and then do the same on the other side. Okay, at this point now, we've got our side seam partially sewn up here, which is great. Now we need to finish off the sleeve up at the top here, and what I'm going to suggest is that we just overlock individually the entire length and along this side, so it's separately, overlock them all, so finish that entire edge from the hem all the way up to the shoulder and all the way back down again. And then what we can do is we can just turn it under by 1.5 centimeters and just stitch it down in place. That's going to give us a beautiful finish on the outside there. So let's overlock the side seam separately next. Okay, so then with our sleeves, we're literally just going to turn it over by 1.5 centimeters. We're just going to pin it and then press it 1.5 centimeters all the way around. Excellent, just like that. And then what we're going to do is we're literally just going to sew it all the way around. At the bottom down here, obviously, we're just going to want to continue the stitch line down. Let's open it up. We're going to want to continue the stitch line down and then pivot and then come back up again at that moment there. That's going to look so pretty. Right, you could do this with a twin needle, so with 2 lines of stitches. You can do it with a little zigzag stitch, or you can do it with a lightning bolt stitch, but do whatever you do it with a slightly stretchy stitch. Okay, so just like that, it's now beautifully finished on that side. Take a little closer look. You can see we've done a nice little bit of stitching there, and it's also just nicely finished underneath with a nice little pivot at that point. Okay, let's repeat that for the other side. The next step, once you've done both sleeves, is just to hem the bottom of the cardigan exactly as it has in the instructions. There's two options of how you can hem it. Then we're also going to do the slit opening in exactly the same way as it recommends in the instructions. That has not changed at all. So once you've done all of that, come back and join me when you hit step 12, which is where we attach the neckband onto the cardigan. Okay, so we're moving on to the final step, which is to attach the neckband, which is one of the hacks that we've done. So we've sewn our gorgeous little sleeves, they're looking great, or sleeveless version. We've done the hem, we've also finished off the slit at the side, so it's all completely done on the inside, it's looking fab. And what we're going to do now is attach our neckband. So I'm just going to open up the garment to start off with. And then we've got the neckband here. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to put one on top of the other, put the neckband on top with the raw edges aligning. So we've got 3 raw edges aligning at this point here. Just going to pin that in place, make sure it's nice and neat down at the bottom. And then we should have another notch across all the pattern pieces, which is here. And we should have another notch on our neckband as well. So just line those up together. And then continue to pin the neckband to the cardigan all the way around, just aligning those notches to start off with. Those are the critical points. And then you can just ease the rest in. Once you've pinned the entire neckband to the bodice, we're then just going to sew it in place as per the instructions. Excellent. So once you have attached the neckband and overlocked it, once you've overlocked it like that, we're then going to press the neckband so that the seam allowance is pressed towards the body of the garment. Once we've done that, we're then going to stitch it and top stitch it just to on the body side, all the way through the body and the seam allowance as per the instructions, just all the way along, just to hold it in place nicely. And then we are done, and let's go and take a look at it. And here is our lovely little iris cardigan. It's been lengthened. It has a lovely short sleeve version, so great for layering. And also that neckband just gives it a bit more drama. Isn't it amazing how different it looks compared to the original? It's really fascinating, isn't it? Just a couple of little changes make it look so different. I hope you've really enjoyed that. Thank you so much for joining me today as we've looked at how to hack our gorgeous little iris cardigan. Please do continue to follow us on our Minerva YouTube channel, where we have loads of inspiring content for you. And don't forget that you can upload any of your garments, any of your hacks that you're making onto our Minerva website, where you can create a free account and tag the products and the fabrics so others can see what you're creating at home too. So thanks for joining me. I'll see you next time.